Welcome to Fearless Females, where ambition meets resilience. Meet your guide, Lorie Hones, owner of Fearless Financial Advisors. Join her and remarkable women executives as they uncover the triumphs and transformative moments shaping extraordinary careers. Ready to be fearless? Let the journey begin.
Good morning, Fearless Females. Thank you so much for joining us again. And thanks to our sponsor, Fearless Financial Advisors. So, you know how you have those people in your life that they've just always been there. And you know that if you had a problem, like you could just call them up and they would show up and they'd probably bring you a cake or maybe some soup, and they would clean your house and take care of you. Ellen is one of those people. She talks a lot in this episode about having a tribe and finding a tribe of supportive and helpful women. And I think that that is so near and dear to her heart because she is the tribe. I've always been able to count on Ellen to just show up and help out. I know she would pitch in. I know she would be there in a heartbeat. I know that she has my best interests at heart and she wants everything good for me and my family. And so, but I think that the important part of Ellen's interview is just that she talks about that in business. I think that it gets overlooked sometimes how much you need connection, how much you need people supporting and helping and growing and just encouraging when you are having a rough day, when you know that you've got 3 or 4 people you can call and they're going to commiserate with you about, the crappy day you had or the bad interaction you had or the horrible presentation you did. And then they'll tell you all about how wonderful you are and how smart and brave and kind. And those are the type of people that you need in your life. When you talk about like a network, I think of it more as a tribe, as a group of people that will show up, support, help, love, lift, grow. And so if I had one wish for my listeners, I would wish that they could find their tribe early and be that tribe for someone else in their life. So it makes all the difference in your world. So let's get started with Ellen Huff. Good morning. So we're here today with Ellen Huff, who's the executive director of Savior Hospice in Lakeside, Arizona. And I'm so excited that you're joining us today, Ellen. I am fascinated by what you do because just as a side note, I've known Ellen for a lot of years and I still don't know what she does. So I'm so excited to get to hear all the cool things that you have done throughout your life. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for the invitation. I'm very grateful to be here.
So my first question is always the same. I'm a reader, and I know you are too. So tell me, what is your favorite book?
Okay, so my inner nerd has a favorite book, and that is the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I find a lot of themes of good and evil, of life choices, of taking a path you didn't plan on. Like I find a lot of meaning in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. It's something that I read probably every couple of years. I'll read the entire trilogy. It's one of my books of choice to fall asleep to because I read every night when I'm falling asleep. Now, from a personal growth standpoint, currently my favorite book is called The Untethered Soul. Mm-hmm. And it's just learning to know who you are and how you think and being aware of yourself as a person, mm-hmm. which I think cannot help but improve my ability to lead and direct my team.
Yeah, I love that. I like the Lord of the Rings too. It took me a really long time to read that book. Like I started it 4 times, the trilogy, but the first one I started maybe 4 times, and it took me till I was like 16 years old before I finally was like, okay, I'm going to read it.
People give me Lord of the Rings stuff on a somewhat regular basis because they know I'm such a nerd.
I love that. I love it. I've got a guy here actually in my neighborhood who has like a literal Lord of the Rings museum in his house. So I think that, yeah, I'll have to take you to that one day.
Okay.
So tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me how you started. Tell me a little bit about your journey and kind of what do you do now?
So, a million years ago, when I was a teenager, I started working in a nursing home as a nurse's assistant. I really had no idea what the job entailed. I just needed a job. And I figured I was the oldest girl in a large family. I knew how to take care of people. That was something I could do. So that's how I started. And then as time went on, I pulled myself together and went to college. I got my practical nurse degree. As I was working on my bachelor's degree, I became a registered nurse. I worked as a registered nurse for 16 years in various fields and capacities. And then in 2015, I became a nurse practitioner, and which was a whole new thing after being a
Mhm.
registered nurse for so many years. It was like starting all over again. And I was in family practice and urgent care for 7, almost 8 years. And then I just needed a change. I was burnt out. I was way undervalued and underpaid. I was working at home every single night, taking work home with me and crying more often than I care to admit. So I jumped tracks. I walked into interview at Savior Hospice with the vice president, who I didn't know was the vice president. The day I met her, she had her hair up in a ponytail and was wearing jeans and sneakers, putting together racks for storage in the storage room of a new office that she was opening up in Lakeside. And we just had this instant connection. And she said, I interviewed to do face-to-face visits as a nurse practitioner for her, which is where you go out and certify that hospice patients are appropriate by Medicare guidelines to stay on hospice. And we weren't even 10 minutes into a conversation. And she said, you know what? I don't want you to come and do face-to-face interviews for me. I really want you to come be my executive director. And I was like, I don't know anything about running a business. I am a nurse. I am a nurse practitioner. I take care of people. I'm not a numbers gal. And she was like, you've got what it takes. You're it. You're my thing. I want you to be my executive director. Well, at the time I was in the middle of waiting to start another job in an urgent care clinic. Um,
Mhm.
and so I said, well, I need some time. I have a job. And she was willing to wait. And she brought my CEO, Jeff, up. And for several months, they both would come up from the valley and meet with me. I live about 3 hours outside of Phoenix. They would come up and meet with me and talk with me about what they were trying to do, what their philosophy is, what their approach to healthcare is. And they really were patient. They were so patient, I have to tell you, because I just couldn't, it was a big jump for me to leave what I knew in healthcare and start on something completely unknown. So obviously I did, and I'm 2 years in, and here's where I am today, and I love it.
Yeah, you said it was a big jump and they were really patient, but I know you, Ellen, and you are smart and driven and capable, and I bet that learning curve was pretty quick.
It's only been in the last 6 months that I've really felt confident in what I'm doing and capable of doing all the things that my bosses have asked me to do. So thank you for that vote of confidence. Um, but they had a lot more faith in me than I did for a long time. And I think that's really what has kept me here, is that both my vice president and my CEO were willing to invest in me and stick it out with me. And that really has made a huge impact in my life.
You must have had the courage though to say yes to that opportunity. Like,
I did. I was working in the mornings in hospice, and in the afternoons I would go to the clinic, and I would do 4 hours at each, and I was just trying to figure out which fit me better. And one day, bless this guy, one day I was sitting in the clinic, sitting in the doctor's chair. The guy's up on the exam table, and he's telling me all about how he's just dying. He's so sick. He had a cold, but he was dying. He was so sick, and he was, being all dramatic. And I just thought to myself, I don't want to be doing this in 5 years. And it was like an explosion in my head. I don't want to be doing this in 5 years. There's my answer. That's when I made the decision to go all in and come to Savior.
Huh. It's interesting that it took just a little while to figure that out. Like this is a huge opportunity, a huge risk too, but a huge opportunity. And you were very thoughtful about it.
I agonized about it actually, and bless my husband. I have the best partner. He's so patient, and he's always been like, do what you love, find your path. We'll make it work. So I would not be here today even without that support as well.
That's great. So looking back over your journey, Ellen, can you think what was the best investment that you've made in yourself? Is there something you can look back on and say, oh my gosh, if I hadn't done that, I would not be where I'm at today?
Getting my master's degree really is what opened the door to all kinds of different paths. As a registered nurse, I could do any kind of nursing, and I could have a job anywhere in this country, anywhere in this world. I mean, nurses are always in need. If you don't like one kind of nursing, you just go try something else.
Mm-hmm.
So as a nurse, as an experienced nurse, I had a lot of options. But deciding to go back to school and earn my master's degree in becoming a nurse practitioner, that's what really opened the door and made it possible for me to get to where I am today.
So tell me a little bit about that, because I was watching you as you went through that time, and you were trying to raise a family at the same time you were going to school. Like, talk about why?
I made the decision to go to grad school over a period of several months. I had a nurse. I worked the night shift. All my years as a nurse, I worked nights. I'm a little bit of a maverick. I like to do things the way I see best and not necessarily by the rules. I know for some of you rule followers, that will make you grind your teeth, and I apologize. But I always worked nights. And I worked with a nurse named Jim. And one night Jim said, Ellen, we should go get our master's degrees. We should go to grad school. We should become nurse practitioners. And I was like, you are so full of crap. My kids are 5 and 7. That's just not realistic at all. But it stuck in my head, and it just kind of stayed there in the back of my mind. And as I was working as a nurse, nursing has become increasingly digitized. Mm-hmm. And everything at the bedside is now about scanning barcodes and making sure that you dot all the I's and cross all the T's, and charting assessments in the computer and capturing charges so that the hospital can bill for the largest amount. And there are lots of good things to nursing, but I felt like I spent all of my time on a computer or scanning things, or I didn't spend time at the bedside. I didn't spend time with my patients, talking to them and getting to know them, which is what I really loved about nursing. So I was a little disenchanted with traditional nursing roles at that point. And then I really started to take it seriously and really move towards going back to school. The final straw was one night I had to call an elderly surgeon for an order for Tylenol for a man that had no health history, no previous problems, like he'd broken his leg or something and just had surgery. He just wanted some Tylenol. And the fact that I had to call the doctor, first of all, he didn't even write an order for that. Second of all, I had to call him at 11 o'clock at night to ask him if I could please give this patient a Tylenol. I just thought, this is stupid. I could have written this order myself. And that's what finally pushed me into going to grad school. So bless my husband, my children were about 6 and 8 when I started back to school. I waited until my youngest was in full day school. Kindergarten, mm-hmm. where I live, kindergarten was only half day. Mm-hmm. And we really worked all the years that we were having this family. My partner and I really worked to not have to pay for childcare. I worked nights. Yeah. He worked during the day. I worked on the weekends so that we made it work. Mm-hmm. So I waited till my youngest was in all day school. That would give me more time to study. And I went to school full time, and I continued to work in the emergency room full time, and had 2 children that were in school and needed some love and attention and help. And bless my husband. To this day, I don't know how we stayed married, because it was really hard for him. He was not a good cook. He is now. He makes delicious meals now. He did not like doing laundry. He still doesn't. But I mean, he didn't know how to do my daughter's hair. he didn't like taking the kids everywhere. He didn't like having to be Mr. Mom. It was a very hard adjustment for him. So it was crazy. Looking back now, I don't know how I made it. If I had to go back and do it again, I don't know. I don't know if I even realized what I was signing up for when I decided to go to school with small children.
How long was your education? Was it 2 years or?
It was 2.5. I had to repeat one class. I was 0.2% off of a B grade. And in grad school in healthcare, you cannot have less than a B. So I had a C++, and my instructor would not allow me to fix it, do any kind of extra credit, make it up. She would not budge. So I had to repeat one class. So it took me 2.5.
Did you cry? I would have maybe cried.
I did cry tears of rage. I hated that woman for the rest of the time I was in nursing school.
I bet.
Yeah.
And you said it was a little bit different when you became a registered nurse after being in the nursing field. What was so different about it?
So I knew how to take care of people. I knew how to take care of them physically, how to give them medications, how to calm them down and make them feel better if they were having a bad day. I could do lots of things. I could do lots of, procedures like start IVs or I had lots of skills as a nurse. As a new nurse practitioner, I had some skills. I learned skills like suturing or, skin biopsies. Woman stuff. I learned how to do those things, but I wasn't an expert at them. I was a brand new novice, and it really took me right back to when I first graduated from nursing school. People ask you, the first time I did a procedure on it was a 16-year-old boy. His mother said, "Have you done this before?" And I was like, yeah. Yeah, I've done it before. In my head, I thought, I just reviewed this procedure in my textbook and watched the YouTube video 3 times. So God help me, I better get this right. You never admit, listen, for all of you listeners, you people that watch this podcast, do not ever ask a medical professional if they've done a procedure before. Don't ask them. You don't want to know the answer. They will most likely lie to you. If the answer is no, they're going to say yes. Don't ask. So I went from being an expert nurse to being a novice nurse practitioner. Every night, every morning for my first year of practice, I would drive to work and think, please don't let me kill anyone today. Please let me have the wisdom to know what is right and what is wrong. Please help me have the knowledge to find the right tab on Google. I would have these very heartfelt pleas sent out into the universe every day for my first year as a nurse practitioner, because I knew inside that I didn't know enough. I knew enough to pass my boards, which is like the bare minimum of safety. If you can pass your boards, that means you are marginally safe to practice. So I knew that I was not the best nurse practitioner out there. So it was hard to go from a mentality of, I'm an expert, I got this, I can handle anything that is thrown at me in this emergency room today, I can handle it, to, I don't know what I'm doing, I could kill people. It was very difficult mentally to step back down and go back to being this humble new grad of, please teach me, please, So it was just hard to kind of reset everything back to the very beginning.
Yeah. And I guess I've never really thought about that before, about you always know that, I've never been to the doctor really where I've had any sort of life-threatening thing, but you guys do. You handle life and death situations. It's, on my shoulders are placed the weight of somebody's retirement savings, but your shoulders are placed their life. That's not so much these days, but yes, when I was in family practice and urgent care, for sure. Yeah, that would be a hard mantle to hold. But again, I've known you a lot of years, Ellen, and I'm sure that you were not nearly as you were probably more scared than you were unknowledgeable. I would have put bets on you 100 times over that you got that.
Thank you for that.
So as you were going through your journey, did you ever get some really bad advice? Did anyone tell you, what's the worst advice you've ever gotten? And did you take it or did you not?
The worst advice I ever got was probably the most recent, as far as being an executive director, as far as being a senior executive. The worst advice I got was, yeah, go ahead and go to lunch with that guy. I'm sure it's no big deal. It turned out it was a lunch with a headhunter who wanted to recruit me to a competitor. And that led to some very awkward conversations with my boss. I didn't realize, and stupid me, I hadn't been headhunted as a nurse. You just always got what you wanted. You could find a job anywhere. I'd never had someone call me and say, hey, I'd like to take you to lunch. So you can all laugh that I didn't realize what I was walking into. But I went to this lunch. I was tempted for about 30 seconds. It would be an easier position than being a director. I would continue to do face-to-faces with hospice patients and do some marketing. And, I do various things for this other company, but I would not hold the reins or the responsibility for making an office successful like I do now. So for about 30 seconds, I was tempted at this lunch. And then reality set in, and I quickly realized that that wasn't what I wanted. But I walked out of that lunch, hopped in my car. I was driving home to pick up my husband. We were going out of town. So I was driving home. My boss called right about the time I was driving home. I hadn't had time to process it yet. Hadn't had time to think about how I felt or what I wanted to how I wanted to talk about it if it came up, with my employer. I hadn't had any time to process it yet. So I had some really tense, awkward conversations over the next few days with my employers. And looking back, I wish I wouldn't have taken that advice and gone ahead and gone to lunch with that person. But I learned quite a bit about myself, about the people I work for, and about where I want to be by taking that bad advice. So was it good advice? No. Should I have taken it? Probably not. But in the long run, did it really help me clarify what my goals are? Yes, 100%.
Yeah, that's interesting because a lot of times when you make a mistake or you do something that you wish you would have done differently in hindsight, right? You learn from it. And sometimes they're not the most pleasant and easy lessons.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're hard and not fun at all. But I do think that part of learning who you are and growing into who you're going to become is learning how to deal with those really hard situations and having some of those really hard situations. If life was easy, it wouldn't be amazing, right?
Right. All the good things come through difficulty. That's what I've learned.
So let's talk about a situation that you might not regret, but if you could go back and do it differently, and maybe it's just the one that you talked about, but is there anything along your journey where you're like, gosh, if I knew now or knew then what I know now, I would have done that so much differently? Like,
this sounds a little odd, but I would have done my clinical experiences in NP school differently. I stayed with the same nurse practitioner for my whole 800 hours or however many 100 hours I had to get. With hindsight, I wish I would have spent some time with a dermatologist, spent some time with women's health, spent some time with an orthopedic surgeon. I wish I would have started out a little more well-rounded. Over the years, I became much more well-rounded, but gosh, it would have been nice to have a little better idea of some of those things, some of those harder fields of nursing or healthcare before I jumped in with both feet. It was
maybe it would have made that first year a little easier too, a little less scary.
It probably would have.
Yeah. Did you have the opportunity to do that, to do it with several different people and you just didn't know? And
I could have. I had to find my own preceptors, and I don't think I had the confidence to reach out to these other providers and say, hey, I'd really like to come follow you for a semester or for a month or for 2 months or however long. And also, I was strapped for time. Honestly, it didn't even occur to me because it was all I could do to get through grad school, get through my clinicals, keep my children and my husband together, body and soul, and keep a paycheck coming. I just don't know that I could have, even if I wanted to.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like looking back, you wish you could have, but maybe even given your knowledge, you might still have had to make the same decision because of the other outside factors in your life.
And I think I think we all find ourselves in those kinds of positions sometimes where would we have done things differently? Sure. But if we could, would we have ended up in the same place? Sometimes, yes. Maybe not always, but sometimes, you know, I'm a firm believer that you end up in the path that is best for you. So maybe I would have ended up here regardless of how twisted and difficult my path was. Who knows?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. It's an interesting thought to look back on. That's one of the questions that I'm considering changing up, because everyone's always like, oh, I don't have regrets, or I couldn't have done anything differently. But I like the idea of like looking back and just kind of taking stock of what we did. And maybe it's just like in your situation where you're just like, yeah, I would have liked to have done that, but truthfully and honestly, I was stretched thin. And I may not have been able to, even if I'd wanted to. So to make yourself feel like, you know what, I did the very best I could.
Mm-hmm. Be forgiving of yourself.
Yeah. So if you could go back and talk to your younger self at 20 years old, when you were just starting to get your nursing degree, just early on, what advice would you have for her?
Oh gosh, how much time do you have? At 20, I had a very happy childhood until one day I came home from school and my mom was gone. And that left me reeling and fundamentally changed a lot of things in my life, both how I felt about myself, how I perceived the world, and where I thought I was going to go. So I was struggling with that. I was struggling with the lack of self-confidence that all young women face. I'm too fat. I'm too ugly. I'm not smart enough. I'm not athletic enough. We have all of that paralyzing self-doubt and insecurity. At 20, I had just placed my second child for adoption because I was dumb and I had to do it twice to learn. And I know, I know that birth control was well available in the 90s. I know. It's just dumb. But I wouldn't be the woman I am today without those very difficult experiences. So at 20, I was a mess. And honestly, if I could go back, I would tell my 20-year-old self, first of all, don't be so damn dumb. First of all, second of all, get some counseling, because it took me a long time to process how I felt, what I thought about those experiences. It just seemed like things piled up on top of each other, one on top of the other. And I never really got time to finish processing one before the next catastrophe hit. So I would have told myself, invest in some counseling, learn, to forgive yourself, forgive your parents, to, recognize your strengths and move on. I feel like I wouldn't have wasted so much time in my 20s and I probably would have actually taken a very different career path if I weren't such a mess at 20.
What do you think you would have done?
I would have gone to medical school. I would have become a doctor. And
okay, because I'm like, I don't
say that out loud.
Yeah.
I know it's such a stupid thing, but as a nurse practitioner, I constantly face criticism because I'm not a doctor. It's actually a big part of why I left family practice, because I did not receive a bonus or a raise for 5 years. And I was told, well, you're not a doctor. Well, you're not, you're an advanced practice provider. You're a physician enabler. You're not a doctor. I love medicine. I think I would have been a great doctor in a specialty field. But it wasn't in the cards. I was too much of a mess at 20 to really get serious about doing the GMAT and settling down to do medical school. I actually left my family practice position because when I really pushed for bonuses and raises for all of the advanced practice providers in my system, I was on the financial committee and I was pushing, look, the doctors get bonuses. You just give raises to the CNAs, you give raises to the nurses. What about the PAs, the physician assistants, and the nurse practitioners? We deserve something. And my boss at the time looked me right in the eye and said, you overvalue yourself. And I thought, are you kidding me? I work just as hard as your physicians. I'm a better provider than a lot of your physicians. My satisfaction scores are higher. My billing and coding accuracy is higher than a lot of your physicians. You're telling me I overvalue myself? I was like, I'm done. I'm looking for a different job. So It would have been a lot easier to be a doctor and not have to face the constant criticism. Even in the hospice world, I get some pushback because I'm not a doctor. And that's very frustrating for me. And that's something that I haven't been able to make a long lasting, impactful change yet. If I could, I would. But I at least start in the community that I live in the environment that I live in. That's the best I can do. But I would have loved to have been a doctor.
I thought you were going to say something different, and I can't imagine you being anything but a medical professional. So a doctor sounds good.
The funny thing is, almost all of my siblings are in business. So I probably would have done really well in business, but I didn't choose to go after a business degree. And then here I am in business.
That's
I
funny.
just went about the backwards way, but I have ended up being an executive in a business, just like some of my siblings. So it is kind of funny to look and see where I'm at. There are probably a lot faster, straighter lines to get here than the one that I took. That's for sure.
But I think it must add something to your position to have you have all of that practical knowledge, so that as you do your role and you're overseeing some of the pieces that you used to actually hands on the ground do, right?
Well, I feel that the leadership sets the tone for the team. And my two bosses have been fantastic mentors for me on that. I have always felt very strongly that women should lift women. I have very little tolerance for the mean girl mentality. I'm going to be mean to you because I don't like you, or because you're not like me, or because whatever. So I feel like leadership is best modeled through behavior. And to this day, I keep under my desk, I keep a pair of scrubs and some tennis shoes and some socks, so that should I be needed to help out, if one of my staff is in trouble and needs help, that I can do that. So in the 2 years I've been in this role, I have gone out as a CNA, as a nurse's assistant, and assisted my vice president, who went out as the nurse, to do a home visit. I wear the admissions nurse hat quite frequently. I do home visits. If my nurses are strapped and they need me to pick up medications, I go do it. If they need me to go tuck in a patient, I go do it. If they need me to, just call and deal with a family member, I do it. I feel like that is the number one way to strengthen and build my team, is to show them that I'm willing to serve, I'm willing to help. And if I'm willing to do it, they have to also be willing to do it. And that is a very strong theme in my office. And every person that works for me will tell you, well, Ellen works harder than anyone else in this office, and she just expects us to keep up.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. How and that probably also, if you turn it around and think of yourself when you were just starting out and you were that, brand new, how nice would it have been to have a mentor that was that compassionate and kind of involved and sort of a good role model and example to help you?
I have had some really good examples over the years. And unfortunately, in nursing, there's a saying, nurses eat their young, meaning that older nurses are mean and unhelpful to younger, newer nurses. And that phrase has always bothered me. I've had some really great mentoring nurses over the years, and I've been lucky to have some really great mentoring bosses and supervisors over the years. So I don't think anyone can become successful without a cheerleader, without a mentor to push them and help them to understand the important points of whatever their role is. I don't think you could make it without someone helping to guide you along the way.
And I love that you're doing it for those that are coming after you, helping to build and grow them. What about unique challenges? Did you face any unique challenges because you were a woman? Nursing is predominantly women, but
it is. And in some ways that makes it more difficult. I often joke that I love working with men because they bring the estrogen level way down, because a unit full of female nurses can have a lot of unkindness and backstabbing and cattiness, but you bring a male nurse onto the floor and that goes way down, like more than 75%. I mean, unfortunately, women tend to behave better when there's a guy around. So I've always joked about that. And it's difficult sometimes to work in a group of women. Now, I know, having listened to a lot of your other guests on this podcast, that it's also hard to be the only woman in the room. And I haven't had that to date, but standing out as a woman among women can be difficult. Standing up and saying, standing up for whatever is right in a group of women that aren't interested in that can be very difficult. So I would say that's a unique aspect of working in healthcare. One day, my then director of clinical I can't even remember what she was going on about, but she was after me about something that I wasn't doing to her. She didn't think I was doing a good enough job of. And she wasn't being really aggressive in her criticism. She was just kind of passive aggressively picking a little bit about me not getting whatever it was done. And I finally turned to her and said, you don't understand what I'm doing here. Not only am I responsible for all of the people that work for me, I'm responsible for their families. I'm responsible to help make sure that food gets on their tables and their mortgages get paid. But not only that, I'm responsible to our clients, to both our patients that we care for, the vendors that we work with, and last but not least, I am responsible to grow each and every person that works in this office. So while you see that I'm not doing this one thing, you need to understand that not only am I trying to do that one thing, but I am also trying to grow and mold and mentor each person that works under me. So leave me alone. Really quiet. I think that surprised her. I don't think she'd ever thought about the fact that we grow our employees.
Yeah.
We have a profound impact on whether or not somebody is inspired to do their best or if they're just going to slack off and do the bare minimum to get a paycheck. I think as management, no matter where you are on the hierarchy of management, as a supervisor of other people, your impact on their motivation and their progress can be astounding. And that is something, while the challenges in healthcare and women in healthcare are a bit different from women in the rest of the business world, I think that is something that carries across all levels of all kinds of professional interactions, is that we have a profound effect upon the people below us, and we grow them to our standards so that we can keep moving on to higher things as well.
Yeah. And I think that's gender neutral as well. Like, you find that in men as I think they also have a responsibility as a supervisor to grow and mentor and help those under their care. Do you find that is healthcare at the upper echelons at the director level, like you, does it have a glass ceiling, or is there just as many women? Or
if there is a glass ceiling, I haven't hit it yet.
Good job.
I mean, I don't know where I'm going to go from here, but I think the potential for me to continue to grow is there. Do I feel stifled in my current role? No. Am I challenged to grow on a daily basis in this role? Yes. Will I continue to get better? Of course. But where will I go from here? Like, is this the best I can hope to accomplish? I don't think so. I don't know where I'll end up, but I don't think this is the best last place that I'll be.
And there's a lot of opportunities in the C-suite of healthcare. Like, I don't understand C-suites of healthcare. I understand C-suites of business. So
sometimes C-suites of healthcare can be a little top heavy. You know what I mean? But I don't know. I mean, I could get a chief nursing officer certification. That just takes a matter of months and a matter of money. And then I could be, a C-suite at any major hospital or any major healthcare corporation across the country. But I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do, where I want to go. I don't feel like I'm limited in only being able to do this one thing. And I'm fortunate enough to work for people who also don't think that I am limited in only being able to do this one thing. I think if I found a direction that they could be supportive of, they would encourage me to go do it. And that's an amazing feeling, to know that the people above you are trying to lift you.
Yeah. And in turn, probably helps you to lift those below, because you're feeling so much support above. Yeah. I love that idea. everybody gets lifted then, huh? So, Ellen, what is a thing you are most proud of?
As far as my professional accomplishments, I'm most proud of the work that I have done here as the executive director. So I was their first office outside of the Metro Phoenix area, which meant not only was I learning how to grow a business in a rural environment, they were learning how to grow a business in a rural environment and how to support their director, who was learning A, how to do the job, but B, also how to do it in a small community. The community where I live, in probably a 60 to 100-mile radius, has maybe 100,000 people. We're an underserved population. The poverty level is shockingly high here. I'm in the 1% by virtue of the fact that I have a college degree and I work in a good job. And it makes healthcare very difficult. So I'm very proud that I've been able to build this team and build this office to where it is today. We started out with, I think there were 3 of us sitting at the table the first day. And I don't know if we even had a patient yet when I started. So we've grown from that to, last year I had 350 referrals in 2024. So from 0 patients to all of that work has been pretty amazing. It's been a pretty amazing journey. It's been hard.
I was just going to say, make sure you give yourself enough credit for that, because yes, you're so proud of it, but you worked dang hard to get there too.
I have worked really hard. My husband is ready for me to work less hard. I will tell you that I have learned in the 2 years of basically running a startup that the right people come at the right time. And that's been a great thing to learn. Sometimes when I feel like, oh, this is never going to come together. I just lost a key player. How am I going to replace this key player? This key team member. The right person tends to come at the right time, or the right thing happens at the right time. And I don't know that I really felt that from a business standpoint, or even as a nurse, all my years in healthcare. I don't know that I really embraced that, but I think, if you work hard enough and you trust in the process, the right things come at the right time. More than once, I have had someone come through my door and I thought, this is it. This is the piece. This is the person that is supposed to be in this role. And that's been kind of surprising. And it's taken some real work to learn to trust my gut, my intuition, that this person is going to be a good fit, or this person is not going to be a good fit. More than once, I have learned that as well. But I think the thing I'm most proud of is that I have managed to build this team and keep it going. And at this point, I think we're here for the long haul. My bosses are stuck with me.
Yep. And until you find that next take over the universe, maybe it could be Director of Healthcare North America or something like that, right?
Yes, we have a running joke in my family about trying to take over the world. What's your next step in your path to taking over the world? Not that we're really going to accomplish it, but it is kind of a running joke.
But you do keep trying, yeah.
Yeah.
So any advice for a young woman who's just starting down this path you're already so successful at? If she were at the beginning of her journey, what advice would you give her?
I would encourage young women to find something they enjoy doing. They don't have to love it. They don't have to think, oh, this is what I want to do forever. But when you go to work every day and you have to do the same thing every day, you better like it. So find something that you enjoy doing. It doesn't have to be your passion, but it has to be something you enjoy. Second of all, build your tribe. And by that, I mean, find the women who are going to lift you and support you. Every woman has a tribe. I do not believe that we are meant to be islands, that we are meant to be all alone. I think women can be the most successful when they have a support group of other women helping to tug them along, push them up, pull them up, whichever. And I think that we can't really achieve our best potential without having that group of women to support us and for us to support them. I think it really brings a dimension to our professional lives that we don't even understand. I don't think I could be here without all of the women that have supported me and helped me over the years. So in this time of division and separatism and you're not like me, So we can't be friends. You don't have the same political views. You don't have the same financial status. You don't have the same whatever. We are very divided as a society now. And I think it can be very challenging to overcome some of those differences of opinion. But boy, do we need each other. And although, it seems like we're drifting farther and farther apart as people in a society, I think for women to be successful, for any young woman to really achieve what it is that she wants to do in her life, she needs a tribe. So that would be my second piece of advice.
I love that. I love that idea of finding a tribe because that idea of connection and really needing other people. And I think that COVID kind of put a damper on that, where it sort of felt like you were like an island and everyone was an introvert and we all went home and hunkered down. And it just, I am an introvert. And even for me, it was so hard not to have that tribe of women and that caring group of people that are trying to lift you up. I love that thought. Ellen, thank you so much for spending some time with me today and sharing your story and sharing your journey. If I have a listener that wants to get in touch with you and ask some questions, how does she do that?
The best way is to reach out to me through email. I see my professional email all day, every day. So that would be Ellen, ELLEN, at Savior Hospice, all one word, all lowercase. Savior is SAVIOR, Hospice is HOSPICE.org. That would be the best way. I'm happy to mentor or at least point someone in the right direction.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Lorie, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.